when we talked about the cell cycle, we talked about how some parts of the cell cycle, what happens is that we make proteins. And so the series of 5.3 videos here is going to walk us through the process of making proteins. And before we can get into details about making proteins, we need to talk about DNA and RNA. So DNA and RNA are both nucleic acids. DNA's job is to store genetic information, while RNA's job is to physically help build proteins. Then we have proteins, and proteins' jobs are to determine the structure and function of your cells. Certain proteins tell your cells to be skin cells. Certain proteins tell your muscle cells to be muscle cells. And so this process is very important to making you. And so we can summarize it as we start with DNA. So our first step is DNA. Then we move to RNA. And then lastly, we can make the protein. So it's kind of a 3-step process. So proteins are made up of chains of amino acids. So if we look at the diagram here, each of these circles represents a single amino acid. And all of those amino acids put together make a protein. So the protein's structure and function depends on the order of its amino acids. So if we want this protein to make a skin cell be a skin cell, it matters that we have 2 red ones right here next to 2 green ones. So the order of amino acids is very important. If the order of amino acids were to ever change, then the protein would not function as it were intended to. So the instructions for the order of these amino acids comes from DNA. So DNA holds the code for the correct order of amino acids. So just as a reminder that our DNA is stored in the nucleus. However, proteins are made in the ribosomes, and the ribosomes are located in the cytoplasm. So DNA cannot leave the nucleus, absolutely cannot leave the nucleus. So that's where RNA comes into play. RNA can copy instructions from the DNA, and then RNA can leave the nucleus to build that protein. So talking about RNA, we have, it stands for ribonucleic acid, R from ribo, nucleic, N, A for acid. This is a much smaller molecule than DNA, which allows it to fit through the holes in that nuclear membrane. So it copies instructions from DNA and carries them to the ribosome in the cytoplasm. And so RNA is kind of like the photocopier because it copies the instructions. So if we look at the diagram here, we can see that DNA has 2 strands where RNA is only having 1. The last big difference is our nitrogen bases. In DNA, we have thymine. However, in RNA, thymine gets replaced with the base uracil. So again, same diagram, just a little bit bigger. They have the same sugar phosphate backbones. However, RNA does not do the base pairing with another set of RNA nucleotides. There are also 3 types of RNA, and they get noted by the lowercase letter out front. So messenger RNA gets abbreviated as mRNA, M for messenger, and its job is to copy the instructions directly from DNA, and then it moves from the nucleus to the ribosome. And so right here is what your mRNA will look like. It has just your backbone, your sugar phosphate backbone, and then the order of bases. Notice that we no longer have T's, we have U's because this is RNA, and RNA does not work with thymine. Our RNA is ribosomal RNA, and these pieces of RNA help form ribosomes. So a ribosome is made up of a small subunit and this larger subunit. And so both of those pieces are particles of rRNA. Lastly, we have transfer RNA or tRNA, and this brings amino acids to the ribosome. And so here the amino acid attaches to the top. This structure right here, that's your piece of tRNA. And so that's just a comparison between DNA and RNA.